Okay, so let's factor this one now. Or I guess it wants us to use the quadratic formula. So to do the quadratic formula here, I have it listed here for you. It's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this is a. So a is 1, b is negative 16, c is negative 96. So when I fill it in, it's negative 16. Negative 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 96 times 2 times 2 times 1. So that's a positive 16. This is, just put it all in on the calculator at one time to get the answer. When you do, negative 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 96 is positive 640. And it's the square root of that. Square root of 640 I can separate into root 10 and root 64, and I chose that because square root of 64 is 8. So this is actually, when you separate it, 16 plus or minus 8 root 10 over 2, and I can divide each of those by 2. So I end up with an 8 plus 4 root 10 as my answer, which is 20.65 and negative 4.65. Use the quadratic formula to solve this one as well. This is A, this is B, this is C, so you plug it in. That's all you're doing. You're just plugging it into the formula. So it's negative 24 plus or minus the square root of negative 24 squared, because it's b, minus 4 times your a is 4, and your c is negative 89 divided by 2 times your a, which is 4. All I'm doing is plugging in the values. Everywhere where there's an a, plug it in. Everywhere there's a b, I plug it in. Everywhere there's a c, I plug it in. So negative 24 is positive 24. Type all that in your calculator. Parentheses negative 24 end parentheses squared minus 4 times negative 89, you'll get 2,000. Square root of 2,000, let's figure out what that is. Split it up into 120. The reason why I chose 100 is because 100 is 10, right? And square root of 4 is 2. So really it's 10 times 2 root 5, which is 20 root 5. So I actually have 24 plus or minus 20 root 5 over 8. I can divide each of those by 4, so I get 6 plus or minus 5 root 5 over 2 as my final answer. With this one, factor it again. They are not factor. Use the quadratic formula again. Here's the quadratic formula. This is A, this is B, this is C. So it's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times a is 5 times c is 12, all divided by 2 times a. So negative is 4. Type that all in on your calculator. Parentheses negative 4 m parentheses squared minus 4 times 5 times 12. We get negative 224. Run into a little bit of a snag. You can't have negatives underneath a root sign. So what are you supposed to do? Who remembers from Algebra 2? When you got that negative, you got to pull that negative out and rewrite it with an I. Remember that? If you got a negative underneath there, that actually becomes an I underneath, which we'll be talking about in the next couple of sections. Then you can do the roots with that. So root 224 I can split into 4 and 56. That becomes 8 and root 7, which I can split this into root 4 and root 2. So that becomes a 2. That becomes a 2. So I have 2 times root 7 times, root 2 times root 7. So that's actually 4. And those two go back together to be root 14. So I can take a 2 out of all those, and I get 2 plus or minus 2i root 14 over 5. We'll get into more of the i's in the next coming section, so you won't see that as much in this section, but the complex numbers, which is what those are called, you will see them in later sections. If you have any other questions or concerns, I know we didn't go over too many completing the squares. Examples, the main reason because it's not a huge deal. Completing the squares is not something we run into too frequently anyway. As long as you know the quadratic formula and how to factor, you could probably solve almost any quadratic that you can possibly think of. So if you have any questions or concerns, please email me or let me know.